Hey, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly, back at it again with another CFB 26 video. So, if you guys haven't watched my previous video, I'll have it carded somewhere on the screen now. If you want to go watch it, you can. More or less in that last video, I was dogging on everyone's beloved baby girl, everyone's beautiful, bodacious, bountiful queen herself, Strategist. Yeah, this perk sucks. Like, this perk is garbage. This perk is hot trash. I don't know what more creative ways I can say this perk sucks. There was just a plethora. Big word for people who may not know what that. There's a lot. Let me just dumb down my words here, because I know a lot of the people who watched my last video, I could tell they like definitely eat crayons, you know, snort glue in their free time. Because more or less, I was getting just bombarded with comments in my last video saying, Beastly, what do you mean? Strategist is a vital perk to the game. You have to buy it. It's a must-have. It's the best perk in the game, and you know, yada yada yada, stuff like that. And I'm like, LOL, no, it's not. This perk sucks. Definitively, in the last video, I showed you how awful Mind Reader is, which it's a approximate 20 to 30%, ballparking it somewhere in that general vicinity. And people in the comments were like, hey man, the perk is god tier. You just have to stack it. And I'm like, no, that's not, no. So I don't know if you guys play Call of Duty or Dead by Daylight or literally any other game, but if you need something in that game for something else to work properly, that thing sucks. It's called a crutch. You need, you know, it's called a crutch because you can't, you know, walk on your own. You need assistance. It's the same thing with perks. If you genuinely think Strategist is a god tier perk because you can stack it, I have some fucking snake oil to come sell you for an expensive rate, right? With that logic, Elite Recruiter is the best perk in the game when you stack it with 3 coaches. Talent Developer is the best coach perk in the game if you stack it with 3 coaches, right? Tactician's the best perk in the game if you stack it. You know, did you see how redundant this sounds? Except for Architect, this perk is still garbage with or without stacking it. So this perk is the only one that doesn't get, you know, invited to the club. But either way, no. If the perk doesn't work on its own, it's going to, you know, I'm not going to give it bonus points for being slightly less shit when you stack it. Furthermore, a lot of people don't understand how the offense or defensive coordinators work. And to be fair, until about a month and a half ago, I really didn't know either. But your coach perks are roughly half as, or the coordinator perks are roughly half as strong as your coach perk is. So, for example, if I know Mind Reader is a 20 to 25 or 20 to 30% chance to trigger, right? That means if I stack it with my offensive coordinator, that'll boost the odds half of what the base rates are. So if the base rates are 20 to 30%, if I stack my OC with that, that'll boost it 10 to 15%. So then it's going to go from a 20 to 30 to a 30 to 45. Possible. And then the DC comes in there. So if you're ever curious why I'm testing the base value and the base rates for this, it's that you can, you know, within a reasonable margin of error, do the math on, okay, well, if that's the base one, here's what it is fully boosted. So if you're curious, if it's a 20 to 30% rate for the base coach, and you get a DC and OC with every perk in the game that you want for that category, that's going to double it. So it's going to go from a 20 to 30 all the way up to a 40 to 60%, being generous. Obviously, there's, you know, human error, math, rounding, yada, yada, yada. So even if you go out of your way to get everything, which I'm going to, this video is more or less me responding to a lot of these comments in the previous video. So if you guys find any of this video mildly entertaining, smack a like on the video and let me know what was your favorite dumb comment of all the comments I'm covering in this video, because there was just a crap ton to choose from. And I'm going to tell you right now why you can't ever, with good faith, when you're doing an experiment or you're doing any of this educational content, ever factor in your OC or DC. As you can see with San Jose State, my OC does not have Strategist and my DC doesn't. Okay, that's fine, Beastly. Just fire them in the off season and go get a new one. Well, here's your first roadblock / hurdle you're gonna have to overcome to get the wonderfully dynamic combo of Strategist for both your OC and DC. You have to hope to God other strategists get fired from their jobs, and then you can pick them up. I'm not going to waste a large portion of this video going into math and the rates and stuff like that. But essentially, if you're doing a strategist build You could either be at a really bad school and the coordinator that is a strategist will not go to you because it's considered a quote unquote downgrade, or they're just not available. Do you know how many years you're going to have to fire your coordinators year after year after year till you eventually get the dream combo of getting both of them? Obviously, it's random, so that could happen in one off season, or it could happen in like 7. Why the hell would I factor that into anything? That's just dumb. It's very dumb. It's redundant. It's very, very, very redundant. Now, you could obviously go in with human interaction and force loss games to get your strategist coordinators fired on purpose. If you're going that far to force other teams to win and lose to get their coordinators, I feel like you can't have a rational conversation about how balanced these perks are when you're just going out of your way to give yourself what you want. Like, ugh. So no, that's why I don't test anything with stacks, because there's no point. Because eventually, at some point in your dynasty, even if you go into this little setting right here, even if you do it and you turn coach firing off or to CPU only or what have you, eventually your coordinator will go to a different team. Or if they don't go to a different team, they'll become a high enough level and they'll go to the league. And then guess what? The entire strat, the entire plan, the entire thing you designed to function will no longer function because you will lose one of your coordinators, assuming you can find them with relative pace. But like, even if you do find them, right, you still need them to upgrade stuff properly. So even if I were to get a strategist OC and DC, right, they might be hybrid trees with tacticians and recruiters. Currently in this game, you can't control what the CPU upgrades. You can't. So even if you found a OC and DC that's also a strategist that perfectly harmonizes with you, they could just say, LOL, screw you, I'm upgrading tactician, or LOL, screw you, I'm upgrading recruiter. And you're kind of left to dry. Because again, you can't control what they buy, especially if you're using a custom coach. You can't, because the moment you retire your custom coach to go in as them, become them, to then spend their points, and you try to go back to yourself, it'll reset. So if you had some control over how your coordinators bought their perks, then sure, but you have no control what your coordinators spend their stuff on. And furthermore, not just do you have no control, you have to find them. That is just RNG on top of RNG on top. That's so much work, which is why I never in any of these videos ever cover stacking. Yeah, you can do it, but I'm not gonna like bank on that. No strategy I will ever make in this game will ever depend on my coordinators. Yeah, my coordinators are gonna help. I would prefer to have coordinators I want, but I'm not gonna build this entire plan up with crappy foundation and then have it collapse in front of my face. No, that's stupid. Next, just comment I get frequently, whether it's the architect video or the strategist video, and I'm gonna get the comment more. There's these people who seem to have this funny understanding of that I only use quote-unquote good teams, right? So let's just go down my list of teams I have used, whether it's streams for videos or what have you. This is my online dynasty. I'm using FIU. I would definitely not classify FIU as a good school. That's for sure. But hey, it's just one school, right? I wouldn't totally have a list of garbage schools, right? This is for the video today. This will be deleted instantly afterward. Don't you worry. This Vanderbilt dynasty is the Clemson dynasty. I was giving my coach, every perk in the game. So I didn't play this. I was just the OC at Clemson, made a manual save, which is why we're now at Vanderbilt. So this is just this. Even Vanderbilt, I'd classify as like a mid-school. Then you got Rice that I've done a 30-year rebuild on. By no means is Rice a power, juggernaut powerhouse. We have UTEP, which you'll be seeing that video in like a week or so, give or take. Then I have ECU, which, wow, ECU is a juggernaut. Ooh, they're so good. You got Delaware, the second worst school in the game. And then my favorite rebuild I've done this year is Hawaii. And not just that I do a Hawaii rebuild, I did a Hawaii-only Hawaiian rebuild. That's right. For a vast majority of my players on that roster, they were 1- and 2-star players. It was miserable. So for the people who were like, oh my God, Architect is so good. No, it's not. I stacked it with both myself and my coordinators and played like 10 or so seasons. And there was a fraction amount of times the skill cap even triggered. And if it did trigger, it was a stat we just didn't care about. So when people argue with me in the comments, dude, go watch my streams. I can assure you, if you don't, I back it up in my streams. I promise. So yeah, for the people who are like, LOL, you're using good schools. No, I'm not. I'm really not. I don't do school. If I do stuff like for the UMass video, I'll have them as the background footage for like my coach for my uniform, but I don't actually play the file. It's just for testing. Or same thing with the Georgia one. I used it for the background footage, not actually testing, because, you know, I don't need that. So just more dumb comments. The next part of this rant, I'm going to go ahead and include here, because unfortunately in the hour-plus long video I recorded, you know, on Strategist yesterday or 2 days ago, I kind of forgot to do this. My bad. But at no point in the video I ever included the requirements to get Strategist, and something everybody and their mother keeps telling me in the comments of that video. Well, you have to buy Strategist in online Dynasties, because if you don't have it, you're at a severe disadvantage. It's GG easy. You just lose. Which, LOL, no. Let's just break down the fallacies in this, both thinking and statement. If you're in an online Dynasty, right? Most people who do online Dynasties generally do them with themes, right? The one I'm hosting is all 1-star schools. Really bad schools, right? Most bad schools in this game, whether they're a 1-star or a 2-star, hell, even some 3 stars depending on what conference you're in, if you just simulate them, so you're playing offline, you're not winning 4 bowl games in 4 years. You will not be seeing this perk realistically until year 5 or year 6. And so, yeah, if you're using a good school, right, like Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, you can get this year 1 by making the playoff and going on a crazy run, but like, you don't need the help. You're Georgia, you're Alabama, you're Ohio State. You have 5-star pipelines everywhere. You get A+ grades on everything. You don't need the help. That's for the offline crowd. Now let's talk about the online crowd, the people who for some reason think they're just morally superior to every single person on this planet because they play with other people. Newsflash, buckaroo. Just because you would play with people does not A, make you a better player, and B, does not make the things you say relevant. I could easily load up a roster with 30 people who are, you know, bronze tier players who are really bad and kick the crap out of them and make myself seem like a far better player. I could also throw myself in top 100 weekend league and get thrashed by the really good players, and that would make me look really bad, right? Obviously, the skill at which things occur are dependent on where you're at on the spectrum. I'm not going to walk and to go play Henry, who's one of the greatest Madden / you know, players ever, and have him not drop 75 on my head, right? So for the people who tell me, well, for my online Dynasty, I did this, more than likely, you're playing with bums, right? No shade. Not everyone, you know, you have full-time jobs, you have kids, you got family, you got stuff, you have reasons, but you can't skew things with the tone of, well, I did this, therefore this. No, that's not how this works. If you're in an online Dynasty, of course, you can get this early, right? I'm using FIU right now. There's a really good chance, unlike real life or unlike the offline sim, my FIU online sim, I'm going to win more games than the offline or the, you know, sim crowd would, because I'm playing the games. My human interaction matters. The plays I pick, the things I do matter. So if you're playing against really bad people, of course you're going to get this, whether you're a 0-star school or a 5-star school. Just everything is in perspective. And I feel like a lot of people lose that perspective a ton. So yeah, whether you're offline, this takes you way too long to get this perk naturally, unless you're a good school. And if you're a good school, you don't need the help because you're already a good school. And then for online crowd, in the same time and stretch you can possibly get this perk, you could also get Elite Recruiter and or Talent Developer. I'm just going to go out and assume if you're in an online Dynasty and you're far better than everybody else, you should have no issue getting Elite Recruiter, and you should have no issue getting Talent Developer. Furthermore, if you're also that good, right? If you think you're the proverbial him in your Dynasty, why even waste time spending any points on Strategist when you can just eventually get CEO in 2 years? Right? There's no justification you can give me if you're that good. And even if you're bad, I still don't recommend doing it because Recruiter is just so much better. So whether it's offline or online, depending on the people in your league and depending on what school you're using, either this is going to be borderline impossible to achieve or very easy, but if it's that easy, you don't need it to begin with. Makes it redundant. So after much yapping, what was the point of this video aside basically laughing and making fun of the dumb comments you got? The point of this video was another thing a lot of people told me in the comments of that video was that yes, Tier 3 is bad. Yes, Tier 4 is bad, but you don't buy Strategist for Tier 3 and 4. You buy it for Tier 1 and 2. And I said, okay, it's not good either. I glossed over it in the video because it sucked. Like, I guess I can use a moment of this video to explain what I was trying to say in that video that people just don't understand. If you buy Architect, you're buying Architect not because it gives you extra XP in tier 1 and tier 2. If you buy Architect, you're buying it for the tier 3 and tier 4. That's what makes the perk unique. If you want XP, you would go after Talent Developer. If you wanted XP, you get Motivator. You don't buy Architect for tier 1 or 2. You buy it for tier 3 or 4. Same rules apply for Strategist. You don't waste time going into this tree for tier 1 and 2. You waste time going into this tree for tiers 3 and 4, which hence why I made that video a big focal point on tier 3 and 4. But there was probably 30, 40, 50 people who were like, hey, tier 1 is the move. Tier 1/tier 2 are the best 2 perks in the game. And I'm like, they're not. So rather than, which I guess it's my fault for not, for some reason, including this, in the video, but I guess I'll do it now. So I set this dynasty up with 2 schools, San Jose State and Fresno State. They have the exact same grade. They have I think it's a tier 3 pipeline in one of the California areas. I spent the exact number of hours. They both of these coaches both sent 50. And then once we got to the top 5, they both sent 10 and we had no resistance. It was just me and them. That way, school grades, that way, all that stuff doesn't factor. We had the exact same starting initial interest, which was 0. We both, went after the same schools. I made this as fair as I humanly could. And what I'm about to show you is the result of me having a coach with no perks, right? No strategist, even no recruiter, right? I bought nothing. He's a naked coach. And I'm going to show you what the difference was compared to a naked coach, compared to a coach not just with perks, but a coach with strategists. So on paper, the coach with strategist should blow him out of the water, right? He has max QB stuff, which is the position we're going to go after, is max QB, right? And just to show you, no interest, right? Just tier 1, right? No interest. So they both had the exact same starting spot. They both had the exact same hours put into the recruit. They both had the exact same pipeline. This is pretty much as fair of a test as I possibly could. And I've already recorded the first segment because I know people are going to say, oh my God, it doesn't count because blah, blah, blah. So we're going to go and watch the first clip. This was week, 5 or 6? As you can see, I'm advanced. Oh, it's week 8. It's week 8. I'm advancing, as you can see. No tomfoolery. I advance, get the XP, immediately pop up the screen, and then I go and pull the recruit up. And as you will see, again, San Jose is the coach with perks. The other coach has no perks. So in week 8, the Fresno coach got his visit off. And just to make it, again, as fair as possible for this experiment as I could, they both had the exact same flyout, which was conference prestige. That was both a constant. Both had it. Made it fair. So they both got a C+ conference prestige flyout. Again, I made everything identical or as much as I could within a reasonable human of error. Everything was the exact same. And as you can see, they were basically tied neck and neck the entire way until week 8. The guy got his visit. Look at the distance. All right, keep this distance in mind. Keep it in mind. All right. No perks, nothing. That's the gain he got from a C+ visit with a win, right? He barely took the lead. Barely took the lead. So I don't know why it took so long to find. I eventually found it. So now here's the coach. Here's the week, as you can see. I show you the whole clip, right? No edits, nothing. I back out the week before. I'm about to advance it. Now, this is the week with the coach that does have perks. As you can see, no funny business. Go in, again, do this as fairly as I possibly could. And there you go. Now I will show you. I go in and check, and lo and behold, the coach with the perks ended up overtaking, bam. Look at that. Look at that minuscule difference between the naked coach and the coach with max strategist. Look at that. Look at how little that bar is. Again, they had the exact same starting place. They had the exact same everything. The only time one of them moved over the other is when week 8 happened and the naked coach took a lead because he had his visit trigger first. And then eventually when week 10 triggered their coach, they're triggered. Now, I've already, I'm prepared for the mouth breathers, for the people who, eat crayons, snort glue, the real dodos in the comment section, who are going to be like, oh my God, basically there's so many factors. What about your school grades? No. Again, I only did 2 actions. That is send the house and DM players. I've done nothing else. So school grades do not factor. They have the exact same pipeline. Furthermore, if you look at the visits, right, this gentleman, Dorian McWilliamson, as you can see, he got a close win from a same tier opponent, which gave him +0 influence. 0. Zilch. Nada. Nothing. And as you can see on the bottom right corner, he got 1 green arrow out of 10. Overall, this visit was more or less a fail. This visit accomplished nothing. But all we have to do is swap over to the other coach. And as you can very clearly see when I swap to him, this coach, I had a very similar situation. I put him in a game in which they barely won. Where's his stuff? Right here. So he got another +0 because it was a close game from a lower tier opponent. So whether it was, same tier opponent or lower tier opponent, that's pretty much the only difference. At the time of me recording, flying them out, both of these were 2 arrow games, 2 green arrow ups. This one dropped to a 1, while that one stayed at 2. But as you can see, because the constants, the conference proceeds stay the same, one recruit got a 1 green arrow out of 10. This guy got a 0 green arrow out of 10. If you genuinely expect me to believe with good, rational, logical faith that the difference between this, naked coach losing the recruit to the other coach because of one singular green arrow, you're insane. You are gone. You are lost in the sauce, and I'm not going in there swimming to go save your ass. You are just going to drown by yourself. The coach with all of the perks, with as many factors pretty much the same as I physically could, and that right there is the difference. That's the difference. And I know people are going to say, well, Beastly, you just did them by themselves. You had no complimentary visits. You didn't put a running back. You didn't put a receiver. You didn't put an athlete. You didn't put a tackle there. I know. I'm going to repeat this like I always do in all my videos. Everything is proportional. So if you get a 10 to 15% boost without the complimentary visits, that's just going to go up more by 10 to 15%. So I could have gave both of these players their max amount of, a left tackle, a receiver, an athlete. I could have given them 4 out of 4 arrows for complimentary visits. The bar would look relatively the same because there's just no difference. The gap between having all of these perks and not is so minuscule. Like, this is not the difference between you being a recruiting god in your dynasty and no. Will this matter? Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple recruits that this will matter. But you know what matters far more than wasting all of your points on a perk that barely changes anything? Your school grades. Obviously, both of our schools suck, but hypothetically, let's say you're Georgia fighting with USC over a player, right? If that player wants procs to home, and there's an A for USC, and it's an F for Georgia, that's a bigger, hill for Georgia to, go over, to get. Like, these grades matter far more than the strategist perk ever does, which is why I always harp on it. Furthermore, how many hours do you spend? Going back to my whole thing of being elite recruiter is just much better because it is. Right? If I had 75 or 65 hours on a recruit with A+ grades, I am going to beat you versus a recruit that you only have 50 hours on, but you get the visit. Do you see how little that visit mattered? Like, I dog on this perk, 1, because it's funny, but 2, I'm trying to save people from ruining their dynasties, whether it's the offline people like me or it's the, people with a god complex in the online dynasties. I'm trying to help you. You can do whatever you want. I am not the arbiter of your decision making. You can do whatever the hell you want. You can waste your points on whatever you want. You do you, boo. You do you. However, for the people who do want to learn and do want to get educated and do want to improve at playing the game, don't buy this perk. Just don't do it. There's no reason to ever buy it. You get a marginal 10 to maybe 15% increase for tier 1 and tier 2. You get a 1-letter grade drop for tier 3, and then tier 4 is a 20 to 30% chance. That is so bad. And again, because I've learned the base numbers, you can do the math. If you stack it with coordinators, right? If the head coach himself is 10 to 15% difference, give or take, maxing out both my coordinators will be the same thing. So that means if I do get the god roll, I somehow find 1 offense, 1 defensive coordinator within the first 2 years of and I get super lucky. I get everyone that matches where we're just in perfect harmony. That would be a 30% give or take. It'd be a 20 to 30% buff for tier 1 and tier 2. That's a decent buff. But it ultimately means nothing if you don't have the pipelines, if you don't have the grades, if you don't have the hours. There's so many factors that go into it. So yeah, if you're a school with no pipeline, again, let's say you're Rice, right? Let's say you're Rice and I'm trying to fight for somebody in Washington where they have 0 pipelines. Yeah, you can give me this perk with Rice and it's going to give me a little boost, but Washington has a better pipeline than me in their own state. Washington probably has better perks than me. So yeah, I might jump them the week of my visit, but they're just going to jump me right back the next week. This perk isn't Mr. Clean It. You can't one size fits all of this with this perk. People treat this perk like it's duct tape. You can just slap it into every build and slap it into every situation. No. If you have the other stuff to pair with it, if you have Elite Recruiter, if you have Lasting Impressions, if you have other, you know, Tier 1 Motivator, if you have other stuff to pair with it, yeah, it's okay. But why would I want something that's okay when I could have something game-breaking like Elite Recruiter, game-breaking like Talent Developer, game-breaking like Program Builder can be or CEO can be? There's no reason you can justify doing this. For all the people who are still 38 minutes deep into this video, I appreciate you. Down below, just to know that you've watched all the way to the end, make sure you leave a brain emoji. That way I know you're a big brain gamer. And try not to flame the people in my comments, right? I'm going to try to politely respond to people. But just know, if you do come at me, if you come barking at me, calling me slurs, calling me names, calling me profanity, just know I'm going to match your energy. Right, my whole thing on my channel is to keep it civil. We can agree to disagree, go back and forth, you know. But what I will not tolerate is people just dropping slurs and stuff. That will not happen. So, if, you know, let me know in the comments down below what you think. Did this experiment blow your mind? Did you learn anything? Were you already a hater like I was of strategists that this now just basically, you know, made your belief concrete? Or was there something I did wrong? Was there some variable I for some reason didn't calculate? Again, didn't use school grades, just you sent the house 10 hours, had the same pipelines. At the time of me scheduling the visits, they were the same caliber opponent. Obviously, technically, one got +1 green arrow, the other one got +0. Ooh. But yeah, stay away from that perk if you can. Whether you're offline or online, just don't do it. It takes way too long to get the perk, and if you can get the perk very quickly, you don't need the perk. So, as always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, or me a follow or sub on Twitch. I would greatly appreciate it if you can please become a member. Memberships help my channel a ton. You get early access to all my videos, 1 to 2 or maybe in 3 days early, but normally they're pretty early. You get VIP voting in, you know, the Discord, a lot of extra perks on the channel, custom streams, custom videos, stuff of that nature. So if you can please become a member. And yeah, guys, I will see you in the next one. Deuces.